That music means it is time for a media timeout from your day. Welcome on in. This is Monumental Sports Network's newest women's basketball show, where we delve into some of the top storylines in the WNBA. I'm Tyler Byrum, and I cover the Washington Mystics here in DC. Today, we'll be taking a closer look at the Las Vegas Aces, who are having quite the unexpected start to the season for a team that is just a year removed from back-to-back championships. But not only will we be talking about what's going on in Vegas this season, we will also be focused on some key components of how the Aces built themselves up into a dynasty, something that here locally in DC, the Washington Mystics are trying to replicate and lay the foundation for this season. That leads us to the guest of the show, Kelly Johnson from The Next. She's the next reporter for the Las Vegas Aces. Kelly, welcome to the show. Let's get you started with informing everyone of how long you've been covering this team, some of your coverage there, and then, of course, answer the big question that everyone's been asking this season. What is wrong with the Las Vegas Aces?
Well, thank you for having me. This has been my first season covering the Aces. I've been following them for about a few years now, since my senior year of high school. And being able to cover this team has been an honor. It's been amazing watching all these stars take on the stars in Vegas, the back-to-back champions. And right now, the back-to-back champions aren't looking too good. There seems to be a few problems. Their starting five, Jewel Lloyd taking over Kelsey Plum's role, a lot of their team going to different teams within free agency, trying to build that connection with the bench. There's a lot to do. There's a lot to do going into July.
Yeah, it's so interesting because this team obviously has the three-time MVP in Asia Wilson and has three other gold medal winning Olympians. And we've seen this team struggle in past seasons, but then they've been able to kind of turn around and flip a switch. Um, Locally with the Mystics, we've seen Washington play the Aces twice. I know that just happened a few games ago. What are your thoughts on these young Mystics and just how they were able to match up so well against this Aces team?
These young Mystics, they're impressive. I mean, Sonia Citron, Kiki Irafin, they've taken over. It appears they've taken over a leadership position that they necessarily didn't need to take over. Their drive to win has been impressive. And Jade Melbourne, after taking that hit, really tough for going back out on the bench and still being there all smiles and cheering on. I know I've seen they've gone to a couple Washington Capitals games, so maybe she learned that from Alex Ovechkin. Who knows? But their toughness, their level of maturity already at a professional level in their first year, it's impressive.
All right, so being so knowledgeable about the Aces, I'm going to lead us in with our who wins this jump ball question of this episode. Are the Aces more likely going to be a top four seed in the WNBA playoffs, which means they're going to have home court advantage in the first round, or are they more likely to miss the playoffs? What's your thoughts, Kelly?
Right now, it appears that they're going to miss the playoffs, but things change all the time. Players have breakout games. Aaliyah Nye has been having a breakout season. Becky's been saying that, she's playing right all the time. She's very self-correcting. Having a player like that lead the bench and maybe even lead some of the starting five with that self-correction, with that level of maturity, you could see an instant turnaround. But right now, with them struggling to put together a full 40 minutes, which is something Becky has been talking about in almost every single press conference, they're getting closer, but certain games, you see them fall apart. They have miscommunication. So right now, it looks like they're pretty much going to miss the playoffs.
I did not know what the answer was going to be for you on that, so I'm glad I'm taking the opposite opinion. I just don't see a scenario where you have a three-time MVP in Asia Wilson, you have the point guard in Chelsea Gray, and then two more gold medal Olympians on your team and not make the playoffs. So I think they're going to turn around. I think they're going to figure it out. So by them not missing the playoffs, I have to go with the only other option, which is be a top four team in the league. The main reason I wanted to bring you on this show, though, was this Aces squad is what many are describing as the modern WNBA dynasty. They were able to make it to the WNBA finals 3 out of 4 seasons, winning 2 titles. Of course, there was the Minnesota Lynx in the early 2010s, winning 4 championships in 7 years. Now you have this Aces team winning those 2 titles. Kelly, how did we get here? Kind of take us through these key moments in the franchise's history that ultimately led in the goal of winning 2 WNBA championships.
Looking back, in a lot of sports, you see changes in ownership, relocation, and that can really change a team's momentum. And the San Antonio Silver Stars moving to Las Vegas, becoming the Aces, Mark Davis taking ownership in the Aces, that has played a huge role. With Mark Davis with the Raiders, he has a drive to win, and he has been nothing but supportive of the Aces. He's been boosting them, selling out games like crazy. And that relocation, that new purchase, that really changed the way the team was going. Looking back at their history, San Antonio, they they've never won a championship. The Utah Stars, they're the original team, they've never won a championship. It wasn't until Las Vegas, it wasn't until they've drafted Kelsey Plum, Jackie Young, Asia Wilson. It wasn't until those key draft picks that they started winning and that focus changed.
Yeah, with those draft picks, I mean, I don't know how many times, I don't think it's ever happened in WNBA history. 3 number 1 picks, 3 years in a row, Plum, Wilson, Jackie Young. But it wasn't even just those three. You could kind of see it formulating before then of when they got Kayla McBride back in 2014 and drafted Dearica Hamby again. We're talking about San Antonio time at that point. But all of these players that eventually led the team to a championship were when they were drafted to the team. And the ironic moment of Liz Cambage, she was such a key figure and player in that team. And obviously she was a top player in the league, MVP candidate, all that stuff. But then once she wasn't with the team, that's when they were finally able to break through and win. Now, Asia Wilson, she's a one-on-one athlete. If you're a GM in this league, you can't just expect you're going to have one bad season. And Asia Wilson, the next Asia Wilson's going to be waiting for you with the number 1 pick when you walk up to the podium in April. But they hit on so many picks when there was an era of teams not hitting on picks. Like I know Asia Wilson was an easy pick. Kelsey Plum was an easy pick that draft year. But the Jackie Young 2019 draft, I don't think many people at the time predicted her to be number 1. If you go back and look, it was Tierra McCowan and A.D. Durr that were the top two prospects expected to go in that time. So I see them really hitting on the draft and that just being the foundation for them. Kelly, kind of what do you feel about that with hitting all those draft picks?
Draft, well, with any team, the draft picks are the most important thing. That's where you find your stars, and even you find underrated future stars. Like look at last year. A lot of people didn't expect the Aces to pick Kate Martin or Liz Kitley, and Kate Martin is now thriving out in Golden State. A lot of people didn't expect them to pick Aaliyah Nye this year, and she's one of the top bench players on the Aces this year. And you see it a lot in other sports too. I know with hockey, I grew up a hockey fan. I've also covered college hockey as well. You see a lot of NHL teams, like maybe their third or fourth round pick, even their seventh round pick, they have a breakout season and they become the star of the team. It's the general managers are playing, they're playing chess when some other general managers are playing checkers at this point.
Yeah, it having 3 number 1 picks in a row, certainly a tipping point. Not something that I would recommend to most franchises into trying to accomplish when you want to kind of build up a team. But the Aces clearly prioritize the draft and their prospects. And you have seen that year in and year out with the dedication that they have shown. From your perspective, how much value does the Aces put into these young players, these first rounders, these second round players that they draft, and then making sure that they're able to establish themselves as WNBA players on the court?
Honestly, I see a lot of focus on that. I know people get upset when certain players who get drafted get waived. That's not necessarily the players' fault. It's not necessarily the development's fault. It's the amount of roster spots. With these new expansion teams, hopefully that changes. I know the players are pushing for more roster spots, so hopefully more of these draftees who typically get waived, they will end up back in the W. But there's a lot of focus. I know even with the training camp contracts with Deja Kelly, she had a breakout game against Phoenix in the preseason. She had 15 points. She had more than anyone on the team, anyone on Phoenix. And it really goes to show how much hard work that not only the players are putting into in training camp, it shows what the coaching staff and how hard they're trying to develop these young rookies.
Yeah, because it's so easy, and I've seen it here in DC before. It's so easy to just cut that second round pick or that third round pick in training camp because you much rather have that veteran off the bench that you know when you put them in, they're going to be able to get you 7 points, play good defense, and then make sure that your starters are able to get that 5 minute break that you need. But the Aces have made sure that like, hey, our 11th or 12th player on the roster, that's going to be a young player. They're going to be there. They're going to get the reps. We've seen it before. We've seen it again. And we've just seen it pay dividends over and over again. And with the team like the Mystics, who right now coming off three first round picks, not exactly three number one picks in a row, but three first round picks in one draft, that you're seeing that dedication kind of be built through that area of the WNBA. And the buildup is far different visually than what the Aces did. That was a multi-year process, having bad seasons in a row. You mentioned the transition from San Antonio to Las Vegas, ownership change with all that. But look at what the Mystics are doing this year with three first round picks, Sonia Citron, Kiki Iriafian, Georgia Amore. Her rookie season is going to be next year. Second round
Mm-hmm.
pick, Lucy Olson, even. She made the roster instead of opting for one of those veteran players that we talked about that could have contributed this year. They focused on getting those reps to those players now. And looking at it, of all the players that are 24 years of age, I'm bringing it back to like even Aaliyah Edwards, Shakira Austin, the younger players on the team, Jade Melvin. The rookies and those young players under 24 have made up 61% of the minutes on the Mystics this season, which is outstanding. The Aces didn't fully go into that mode, but when it came to kind of a timeline for the Aces and how they built up, if we want to go all the way back to when they drafted Kayla McBride back in 2014, or even Dearica Hamby, that was 7 years before they won a title. So, what do you feel about that timeline, how long it took, and is that about or should be considered the standard for a process of getting to that championship level?
Honestly, it varies for different teams. Like you said, all these youngins on Washington, they're all putting in the minutes. They're all putting in the effort. They're winning games. They beat Minnesota. They beat the Aces kind of by a blowout. And but for the Aces, it's a different case. They're each team's run differently.
All right, it's time to inbounds the ball and move on to our next topic. Kelly, we're running out of time here, but I want to highlight one of the stories that you published earlier this month on thenexthoops.com. It's on the Aces' most recent draft pick, Aaliyah Nye, second rounder, but she has quickly become a part of the rotation. We were talking about this dedication and focus that the Aces have on developing their young players, but what have you seen specifically from her that has made her quickly a contributor for this season and obviously is going to set them up for future success?
Like I said earlier, she's playing with a high level of maturity. She's so dedicated to this sport. Becky's even talked about it in press conferences and at practice that she knows how to play the right way. And it shows what kind of dedication she's putting into practice. She's putting in the hours. And you know how hard she wants to keep her spot. And looking back at the game against Indiana, I think she had about 13 points. She went 3 for 5 from three. And knowing her numbers at Alabama and even Illinois, she was a shooter. And they're them encouraging her to shoot. She's getting more points. She's getting more numbers. She potentially could be a starter if any of the aces decide to retire, any of the starting five retire, any of them get traded, she could potentially be a starter if she keeps up this hard work.
Well, Kelly, that is the whistle. Thank you so much for joining us here on Media Timeout. We can follow along with your work at thenexthoops.com. I'm fascinated to see what's next for the Aces and kind of how their rest of season will kind of play out for them. For everyone watching at home, thank you for taking this media timeout from your day. Now back to the action on the court.